Hey Sunrise, it's Andrew here with your small group questions for this week. So we bring chapter 11 to a close, and ultimately what we're doing is bringing chapters 1 to 11 to a close. So we bring the end of primeval history to its conclusion with the leading out of this final genealogy as we look at Shem's final concluding genealogy and ultimately the birth of Abram and God beginning this new work with Abram begin in chapter 12. So a lot of what we'll spend some time in this sermon, we'll work through this genealogy, the calling, this new beginning, but we'll also look at the conclusion of this grand era from creation to Abram and what that means. So as you think about this text, very beginning as we work through it, what are some of the important things that we learned in chapters 1 through 11? Why is 1 through 11 seen as its own entity, its own block? And in some ways, I've said this earlier, how does 1 through 11 set up all of Scripture? Why is it so important for us to understand these opening chapters? So as you think about that, how does chapters 1 through 11 set the foundation and primary themes of who God is and our relationship to Him that echoes throughout the whole of Scripture and throughout all of time to us today? What do we learn about God from these chapters? What do we learn about ourselves? What do we learn about the human condition? What do we learn about God's choices, how God functions in the world? And then from all this, we dive specifically into our concluding passage as we look at this final genealogy, as I said. So what do we see in this genealogy? What stands out? Why is this final genealogy important for all of these first 11 chapters? How is it similar to some of the ones that have gone before? And in what ways is it different? And then as you work through it, we see in this one, we have the birth of Abram. What do we learn about Abram in this small section? How does this set the stage for who God is calling? And ultimately, again, as we think about this, what are some of the main things we begin to see about God through this text? I hope you spend some time thinking about these things, reading the text closely, being encouraged by the truth. If you have time, read all of 1 through 11 again. Really familiarize yourself with who God is, what He's doing as we prepare to move forward next week into chapter 12 and the era of the patriarchs as God calls Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then through them we see the building of God's people. I hope that you'll spend some great time in the Word. See you on Sunday as we hear the Word proclaimed. Then again, spending some time in small groups talking about these things. Hope you have a blessed week. See you this weekend.